Perfect. I need you down here.
Okay, we're just wrapping up some of the technology here. Welcome back, everybody. Good to have you back in the room with us. It is an absolute delight for me to introduce our teacher, Roshi Ryoshin Tanoue. She's the co-founder of ZLMC, and she's also the founder and Kumu Master Hula teacher of the Hula School of Chicago. Roshi's teachings are such a gift, and I will just say for me that there is always a thread of beauty and wisdom when she speaks, and I'm very grateful that she's doing that for us today. Her Teisho is entitled The Bodhisattva Vow in Times of Stress.
Wow, good morning, everybody. Nice to see you. Good morning. So I wanted to begin with this quote by Huineng, our sixth Chinese Zen ancestor. Just as a single lamp is able to eradicate 1,000 years of darkness, so can a single moment of wisdom extinguish 10,000 years of stupidity. Don't think of your previous errors, and don't think constantly of what might happen later. With every moment of thought perfect and bright, see your own fundamental nature. I'm going to read that again, all right? Just as a single lamp is able to eradicate 1,000 years of darkness, so can a single moment of wisdom extinguish 10,000 years of stupidity. Don't think of your previous errors, and don't think constantly of what might happen later. With every moment of thought perfect and bright, see your own fundamental nature. My first thought is that takes practice to be able to do that. And that's what Huineng was doing, right? He was at a monastery, he was just polishing rice the whole time. That was his job, polish rice. Work practice. Doing one thing at a time. Trying to drop into the body, mind. And that's what we did yesterday. It was so great. Oh my God, Friday night. I didn't realize how much I needed those 3 20-minute sits, 25-minute sits, with a 5-minute walking in between, and then the last 15 minutes before we did our evening chants. My brain was so full before, as I came into the sit, so full of past, present, future. And I just didn't realize how much I needed that sit. After those minutes of just being still and trying to follow my breath, and I felt like I had been reset. I was coming back home. Wow, I really needed that. So that was from Harada Roshi's commentary on the Platform Sutra that Huineng gave, the sixth Chinese ancestor. So Harada Roshi's commented on this, saying when we hold on to nothing in our minds, what comes through is wisdom. When we hold on to nothing in our minds, what comes through is wisdom. Wow, holding on to nothing in our minds? Like Bernie used to say, fill your minds with as many thoughts as possible at the same time. And Harada Roshi also says, even if a cave has been dark for tens of thousands of years, with one beam of light, it becomes bright. When our senses perceive no personal movement at all, we can see without distortion. When our senses, eye, ear, nose, mouth, thoughts, brain, perceive no personal movement, no ego, we can see without distortion. We can see clearly. And he was also talking a bit about repentance. Repentance, repent. You know, what does that mean? Well, for Harada Roshi, it's repentance is being in this very moment completely. That's repentance. Okay, you think we can do it? Let's try. So, we all know it's been rather stressful in our lives. So much is happening in the world, right? The first 2 months of this year, very stressful. Not only in the world, but probably in our personal lives too, right? Because we are the world after all. We are. The world is us. And this thing with ICE, the Department of Homeland Security and ICE, has been particularly stressful for immigrants and people who love them. There's over 70,000 people being detained right now in for-profit prisons across this country. At least 3,800 are children. And at least 30 people have died in the prisons. And of course, we all witnessed on social media, I have, the brutal murder of 2 American citizens, white American citizens. What's going on? So I have this like live wire kind of, it's about what's happening in the country right now. And I was flipping, I was looking at some YouTube things, videos, and this hearing that Rand Paul, a congressman, was holding with ICE officials or DHS officials going over what happened to Alex Preddy. I mean, showing the video frame by frame. And I started to watch that. I was like, oh, interesting. Okay, they're having a hearing. Well, that's good. And I was listening, and Rand Paul was being very gentle and very respectful as he was talking to the ICE people. I thought, wow, that's good. That's good. Now they can hear him, right? They can hear him. And then they held up this, one of his staff held up a poster board, and it was a couple lines from their policy about, in big words, letters, I saw de-escalation. That's in their policy, which I didn't know. And I didn't really see the policy. But when I saw that sign, I just started crying. It was so interesting because I was just noticing my body crying. I didn't know really the policy, but I listened further, you know, and he was showing, he was talking about there's this policy that says that's your job, this de-escalation, right? And yet, is that de-escalation, you know, when you're shoving a woman in the snow? Or when you're, frame by frame, you know, this Veterans Administration Hospital ICU nurse going to help and saying stop. You know, is this pepper spraying? He didn't even get to the shooting part, but he did show that online. You know, is this de-escalation? So that was, it was hard to watch, but I was kind of glued to the YouTube. And then I know the incredible, beautiful, loving response of the people of Minneapolis coming together to support each other, to support immigrants. It's really beautiful. And Ken Daigu Hillman was there, and he said it was absolutely amazing. Native Americans were there because the facility is where 400, 500, 600 years ago, maybe more, 1,000 years ago, Lakota peoples were imprisoned, and many died there, same place. And Dred Scott, it was a couple, a black couple, who were actually enslaved, but their enslavers died. And they were saying, we are free. And there was a court case all the way to the Supreme Court that they should be allowed to be free. But the Supreme Court ruled in known as one of the worst decisions ever, that they are not free, they're not entitled to be American citizens. And 4 years later, we had the Civil War start as a result. Well, I don't know if as a result of that, but that was one of the things. So it's kind of a power spot, I guess you could say, of injustice. And Eve Marco, who gave a talk a couple of years ago, she was going over there, so Ken got to meet Eve there, and Lakota elders were there. I forgot the name of the wonderful Lakota elder who is like a 19th generation holder of the peace pipe that was given to them by a white buffalo woman. He was there, and they were demanding there were evidently at least 4 Lakotas imprisoned, and they were demanding their release. These are native peoples. They're the original inhabitants of this land. I think they were also giving ICE eviction notice to get out of it because it's their land after all. So, and I think I have there's a live wire in me because 84 years ago, just a few days ago on February 19th, Executive Order 2066 was issued by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt that imprisoned innocent Japanese and Japanese American people, 25,000 people in government-run camps across the country. 15 of my relatives were at Heart Mountain in Cody, Wyoming. I wasn't born yet, but I think this kind of trauma runs in the DNA somehow. It kind of goes through. My grandfather was maternal grandfather was in a camp in Honolulu in a gulch called Honouliuli, very dry, and he, I'm sure he witnessed, must have been a friend of his, I don't know, but Mary Beth Nakade, who's the reverend of the Daifukuji Soto mission in Honalo on the Big Island, her grandfather. They were playing Hanafuda, Japanese cards, so they had some time, to play. And then the story is he kind of snapped and he said, I have to go home. I have to go home to my family. And so he made it. He was climbing, and they were going, no, you can't do that. And they were telling the guard, no, he just kind of has lost it right now. He doesn't mean anything, but as he was climbing the barbed wire, he got shot and he was killed. Her grandfather. And I knew her grandmother, Mrs. Oshima, wonderful woman who went to Daifukuji Temple. And so I think there's something in me that is very alive about this moment going on now, this moment. So the Satyagraha movement, I intend to go and join you when it's a little warmer. But I looked up Satyagraha, and Satya means, it's a Sanskrit word that means truth. And agraha means holding firmly to truth. And it was the philosophy of the nonviolent resistance developed by Mahatma Gandhi, first employed in South Africa in 1906, and was central to India's independence movement, the Salt March. The core idea is that truth itself has a kind of moral force, that by refusing to cooperate with injustice, while accepting suffering rather than inflicting it, that's a big one, right? While accepting suffering rather than inflicting it, one can transform the opponent's heart and ultimately win justice without hatred or violence. So that's very hopeful. But it's a big, deep practice. And it's the same as the Kapu Aloha movement in Hawaii for protecting the mountain, Mauna Kea. It's the same for the Standing Rock movement to protect the water, the Indigenous American movement. The key elements include ahimsa, nonviolence, cultivating genuine goodwill, even those causing harm. Even those causing harm. Oh, that's deep practice right there. And then this tapas, self-suffering, willingly accepting hardship as a demonstration of depth of commitment. Willingly going deep. You gotta go deep to do this. Deep internal work. It's not external work. And this thing called truth force, the belief that untruths cannot ultimately prevail. And this philosophy influenced Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement. So it's this emphasis on inner transformation, right? The spiritual path, inner transformation. The refusal to dehumanize the opponent. And the willingness to suffer for truth. It's a sacrifice. It's a willing sacrifice. That's our practice. Exactly our practice. So, we chanted the 4 Bodhisattva vows. Wow, those are big vows right there. I call them fierce love vows. Creations are numberless. I vow to save them. Well, that includes everybody, doesn't it? Opponents and friends. Creations are numberless. I vow to save them. And the word save kind of can be confusing. Liberate them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Delusions. Delusions. There again, it's very personal. Very personal. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to open them. Dharma gates. Everything is a Dharma gate. Every experience is a Dharma gate. Can we really open to them? Deep practice again, deep practice. And the Buddha's way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Wow, be a Buddha. You are already a Buddha. So I've been collaborating with 4 other Buddhist women teachers for a very special retreat this summer in July. And we're calling it Voicing Zen, Moving Zen, Exploring Embodied Zen. And it's exploring Zen practice through writing, through art, through singing, through music, through some movement, gentle hula, and of course meditation. It kind of weaves it all together. And it's kind of new, and we're all kind of feeling our way, 5 of us. You know, how do we make this happen, and how do we include everyone in a performance at the end, right? And I hope many of you will join us. I'm really excited about this, July 14th through the 18th. One of the collaborators is Dr. Xiao Lan Hu. She is an associate professor of religious studies and women and gender studies at the University of Detroit, Mercy. 5 years ago, she wrote the 4 mini vows of the Grumpy Sattva. What? Grumpy Sattva? Okay, here they are. Limitless, self-absorbed idiots. I vow to teach them. If you are teachable. Endless bullies and cowards. I vow to diminish their influences, provided that conditions allow. Countless traumatized persons burying themselves deeper into the mud. I vow to pull them out within my power. The unsurpassable way of the Buddha. I vow to try to move somewhat closer to it. Maybe 2 inches. You know what? Y'all are totally exhausting, and I am just going to sit down over here and take a nap. I think it's important to have some humor, you know, with these Bodhisattva vows. They're really intense. Sometimes they can seem really overwhelming. So when I read this, I was like just laughing, you know, when she shared them. And she's kind of a serious person, you know, so I was really surprised that she would come up with this. If anybody wants a copy of these Bodhisattva vows, I can make them available to you. So it's got to be the Bodhisattva vows are fierce determination combined with tender compassion. That's how I see them. We've got to have both. Yeah. So going back to Hui Nang's teaching on the Platform Sutra and Shodo Harada's commentary, Hui Nang says that the 4 Bodhisattva vows can be expressed in 2 ways, as a greater vow and as a personal vow. So the greater vow is about offering our lives for all beings, but there's also the personal vow of doing that which we each do best. Playing an instrument, drawing, writing, whatever we feel we want to do more than anything. And that these 2 vows are not separate. So that's interesting right there, right? They're not separate. Serving the world and doing what we most want to do. And finding our bliss, what Joseph Campbell talked about. And Harada Roshi says, which I truly believe, we have to first liberate our own mind. Not to say we should ignore others, but that we also must work on ourselves. How can we, without taking responsibility for ourselves, take responsibility for others? We say all sentient beings are essentially Buddhas, but we cannot repeat this as a slogan while ignoring the deluded sentient beings within ourselves. So clarifying our own state of mind is so important. And, how do we do this, right? Is it only just through sitting on a cushion? I don't think so. I agree. Okay. And yesterday, Joshin Roshi gave a very deep Teisho about Job. Now, I'm not that familiar with the story, right, in the Bible about Job, but he evidently he went through a lot of suffering. Everything was taken away from him, basically. But he didn't give up on the relationship with God, even though Jung says he came to the conclusion that God was amoral, without morals, to do this to Job. And so we have to, that dark night of the soul, we gotta just hang out with it. Because that's where, what is it, the jewel is. That's where our creativity is. We gotta be brave and hang out and go deep within. And finally, Huineng says to become humble. Okay, I know I have to work on this. Humble. We must not think we are special because we are training or helping, nor must we become caught on ideas about our own wisdom. We cannot realize true wisdom by making a vow that is only for our own self-satisfaction. Our vow is also liberating all beings. I really liked Ungo's talk last week about the 8 worldly concerns. So you should listen to it if you weren't here. The 8 worldly winds that really buffet us. That was just really important. And then there's this koan that I came across. It's case 12 from the Gateless Gate. Master Zuigan calls his own master. And evidently it was a favorite of Maizumi Roshi's father. And this is how Maizumi Roshi tells it. He says, Zuigan was a successor of Master Tozan, the founder of the Soto school in China. Every single day, Zuigan would call out to himself, "Hey boss, are you in?" He would call out to himself, "Hey boss, are you in?" "Yes, I am." "Be awake, be awake." "Yes, yes." "Don't be deceived by others." That's like, go on. Isn't that something? Every day he's calling out to himself. "Hey boss, are you in? Are you there? Come in. Where are you? Come back, where are you? Okay, yeah, here I am. I'm here." Be awake. Don't fall asleep." Okay, I'm awake. I'm here. Don't be deceived by others. Okay, is it only others that we're being deceived by? Don't be deceived by you, yourself, all of your ideas and thoughts as you're being buffeted by the 8 worldly winds and concerns. What are they, Ungo? What are the 8? Okay, let's see. This is a tester. What are the 8? Fame and gain.
Gain and loss.
Gain and loss.
Pleasure and pain.
Pleasure and pain. I know, there's 4 more.
Fame.
Huh?
Fame.
Fame and no fame.
Right. Fame and no fame.
Fame and no fame. Okay, and the last 2?
Everybody should look up.
They should look up.
Yes, so that they learn themselves what they are.
Everyone should learn about themselves.
No, I was kidding. I was saying the last 2. I don't remember. Everybody should learn about themselves.
Okay, got it. Okay. Anyway, there are these different concerns that we have. That really, what are they? It's really the ego's concerns. It's not what is really real or true. And so it takes practice of these. There's 6 important practices of a bodhisattva, right? Generosity, effort, meditation, wisdom, patience. And we practice these because we are bodhisattvas. We don't practice these to become bodhisattvas. we are, and thus we practice. So one last thing I wanted to share about the Bodhisattva vow and how it shows up in interesting ways, for me anyway. And that was Bad Bunny and the Super Bowl. I mean, you know, I was watching the Super Bowl. Roshi and I watched just the Super Bowl is what I watched. I'm not really into football. And then I heard this thing, well, Bad Bunny's going to do it, and he's going to do it all in Spanish. I'm like, okay, that sounds interesting, right? Different, really different. And what I saw was incredible. I didn't understand it all. I don't speak Spanish, a little bit from high school, but it was fabulous. Sugar cane, all these people in the sugar cane, you know, outfits. It was so great. This is how life is in Puerto Rico, right? With the casitas, the pink casitas, with dancing, all kinds of, like all out dancing. Isn't that the best? To be able to dance like that. Wow. And the sugar cane, I mean, I saw parallels with Hawaii. And then I saw, afterwards, you know, on social media, they show different Latino families. They're like blown away while they were listening, cheering when they heard their country mentioned. We are all Americans here. After such a bad rap about immigrants for so long. And some interesting numbers about immigrants, undocumented immigrant households. You know, they paid $89.8 billion in federal, state, and local taxes. Not received, paid. And a recent analysis found that over the past 30 years, immigrants have contributed a cumulative economic surplus of $14.5 trillion to this country. And the Congressional Budget Office projects that recent immigration will add $9 trillion to our national economic output and actually reduce the federal deficit by nearly $1 trillion over the next decade. In fact, without immigrants, our national debt would be nearly twice what it is today. So these people are not taking from America. They are building America. And in the middle of his concert, he has this huge sign, the only thing more powerful than love is hate. I know, I didn't see that. And Roshi saw that. He said, wait, there's a sign there. It says, and I was like, oh my God. So he was really standing up for the beauty of his culture and for all the America's culture. And I saw an Instagram post by Taylor Crumpton, who wrote, in the poetry of his performance, Bad Bunny showed that love is not domination, love is not colonization, love is equal parts care, commitment, knowledge, responsibility, and trust. And what I saw that Sunday was an amazing portrayal of Bodhisattva love by Bad Bunny. So, that is my presentation, and I'm open for thoughts or discussion or questions that you might have about the Bodhisattva vow in times of stress.
Thank you for that beautiful Teisho. If anyone would like to make any comments, and then those online too, we'll give you a chance as well. Your hands. Give me more.
hear a lot about what's going on in Minnesota. I'm kind of a news junkie. I watch all the cable shows and I'm addicted to it, unfortunately. There's something that we never mention about what's going on there. And that is what happened to George Floyd. George Floyd was murdered there,
Yes, he was.
probably just a few blocks from
That's
where all
right.
this is going on.
That's right.
There was no need to slow the film down frame by frame to see what actually happened. Maybe they were wrong. No need to do that. We watched him being murdered on TV again and again, even if you didn't want to see it. Just like the Petty film, it was shown again and again. There were people watching. The film never shows the crowd. Don't know how big it was. Don't know who was in the crowd. But there was a crowd watching, and there were people filming it. Filming it. And we watched this guy on his neck while George is laying there saying, "I can't breathe," and crying for his mother. And we don't mention it. Perhaps it wasn't long enough ago to be, I don't know, idealized. It wasn't 80 years ago. It wasn't 100 years ago. The Dred Scott decision was like in the mid-1800s. I don't know when. It was right before the Civil War, I think. But this happened like 4 or 5 years ago. We were there. We watched it. This is not ancient history. And yet, there's no mention of it. And I watch all the cable news. I watch Fox News. I watch CNN. I watch it all. Nobody mentions George. We like to say, yes, this fight for freedom and human liberties for everyone. And yet, there is a crack that still remains. So perhaps we could be more aware of what's going on a global issue.
I agree. Thank you, Linda.
Anyone online? You can unmute yourself.
Sam?
Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I heard Sam.
I was going to share this kind of funny story too. Kind of funny. Talking about, how tricky our minds are. So you got to be alert. You got to be awake. A couple Saturdays ago, we had our first Roxu sewing circle. All of the people who have finished their precept study have the opportunity to sew a Roxu. They can always buy one as well, but sewing one is kind of fun for people who are up for that challenge or who like to sew, okay? So there was, 6 of us there. Yeah, it was a really great session. First session, we're going to do this at least monthly, if not twice a month. It's a support, people, it's just like meditating. It's just easier when there are other people in the same boat as you, kind of doing it. So when everybody had left, I noticed a pair of scissors there on the dining room table. And I thought, maybe it's Adrian's. I forgot. It was kind of where she was sitting. So the next day, Sunday, I see Adrian, and she says, "Oh, by the way, I forgot my scissors." I said, "Oh, okay, yeah, I saw them. They're on the dining room table. Go get it." So she went up and got it. So after that, I was looking for my pair of scissors up there. I couldn't find it on the dining room table. And I really like this pair of scissors. I'm attached, okay? I'm attached to the pair of scissors. I couldn't find it. It just wasn't anywhere. And I thought, did Adrian take my scissors? And I'm thinking, no, Adrian would never do that. Adrian is a very honest person. She would never do that. But my mind kept drifting to, could she have taken that? Nah, she couldn't have done it. I bet she took it. So a few days later, maybe a week later, I went to go lie down on the couch to rest. There on the coffee table next to the couch was the scissors. Was my scissors I had brought it during the Super Bowl. I was doing some sewing over there and I left it there, not in its right place. And I went, oh my God, my mind made up this whole story about how Adrian took my favorite pair of scissors. Talk about how slippery the mind slips in. We have to be alert and awake. Are you in? Boss, are you in? Are you in? She's not here, so. And I was like at first, nah, I can't talk about that. You know, oh, it's too embarrassing. And I thought, you know, if I'm embarrassed, that is a cue that I have to talk about it. You know.
I'm here. I think we've all had that happen. I know I had that happen. Like when someone takes stuff. So I appreciate the illustration.
Anybody else have any comments or anything to share?
You know, Jim, when you were talking about de-escalation, it's just an idea, but like I would love to see schools teach kids de-escalation or conflict resolution because it's so important. And I just, you know, it's kind of up to their homes and their families to teach them, but it would be nice for that to be something formally taught. Just a thought.
Yeah, well, I think the whole mindfulness thing we're doing here is all about de-escalation. My zazen yesterday and then Friday night was all about de-escalation. It's like coming back, pulling it back. Master, are you in? Boss, are you in? Where are you?
Good morning. Thank you for the talk. So I don't know where to start. I have read a lot about de-escalation. I went to military school when I was very young. They taught us about leadership. I've studied it really all of my life. I work for the federal government. I can recount 3 incidents where they did the absolute opposite that didn't need to be done. One person was arrested for it. One person was terminated, could never work in federal government again. And another person was really, he left because of it. He had a situation, and it was here in Chicago, where his sister was shot and ended up dying, and the office wouldn't let him take a full day for the funeral. Which, it hurt me so deeply. I just remember I was moved to tears when I heard about that. But this is what the federal government does. They almost in my experience, they almost encourage a spectacle. So the masses, again, this is my experience. I don't know that we'll learn from it. And those people were like, you know, they were somehow thought that they did the right thing, which none of it needed to happen. It really, and I've always been taught this is what a leader does. They de-escalate the problem. They step in and they assist in coming up with a resolution, with a better choice. I lived in New York where, I know you mentioned George Floyd. Something happened in Staten Island, which is part of, you remember this, right? I think it was right before COVID. A young man, black man, he couldn't, I thought he was in his very early 20s, and he ended up dying. Right. I mean, and it was on every news program. He ended up getting strangled with the club from the cop. They thought he was selling pot, I think, right? And they just wouldn't stop, and he ends up dying. And it was shot, filmed right there. And my mind just tends to take over and overwhelm me anyway. But all of this added to everything else, and I mean, my struggles are my struggles, but pretty much I'm pretty well off, you know, and I don't know where to begin with all of it. I don't know how to help myself and then help others, and I often find myself in small ways maybe contributing to the problem than helping resolve it. I know in small ways I can resolve problems with individuals, but I don't seem to be able to do it on a larger scale, and oftentimes it just seems almost meaningless to me. So I don't know if this is what everyone else goes through, but it troubles me.
I hear you. You're in the right place.
Hi, I'm Aurora. This is my first time here. Right now, I'm in grad school for social work, and I hear kind of similar sentiments to kind of what you've just expressed, especially amongst grad students. This would be, I graduated university in 2008, 2009, so I've got a bit of life experience, and now that I've come back, I hear we have multi-generational groups in grad school. We have some students who are older than 50. We have students who range from early 20s to mid 20s, and then I'm closer to 40. So we have a very dynamic group, and I hear similar sentiments from our younger people, which is refreshing and a little bit strange, but I also remember having similar thoughts when I was younger, just about give me the action steps. Like, I'm tired of debating it. I'm tired of having philosophical conversations. I'm tired of understanding people. Give me the action steps, things that I can actually do. And then our older group is, I guess, very optimistic and strategic, especially that they're coming to this field as people who have observed over time the consistency of struggle, desire, and almost unattainable promises. And being in the middle space with some life practice and a lot of desire and feeling a little bit less courageous than I did when I was younger because of life experience, I find that the meaningful things are the intimate things, and they're things that aren't necessarily like on display. So something that I try to do that is tough to do is to look people in the eyes and smile and acknowledge, especially strangers, especially people who I initially want to look away from. And I think that that's leaning into some of the sacrifice that we talked about today, some of the suffering, knowing that it may be thankless or may be received ill-intended, or that it may make someone else uncomfortable, making the entire intended kind engagement weird for everyone, including myself. But particularly because I work in schools and I see restorative justice practices coming into the schools, not necessarily received by administration as open as it is received by the students who are attempting to understand how to resolve conflict without their hands and with less words. And restorative justice is a practice that gives compassion to the oppressor while acknowledging the impact of the oppression. So it asks a lot of the bully or the aggressor. It asks the aggressor to sit with their actions, find fault in themselves, and create some type of atonement for it, which usually requires change in behavior. I realize this is longer than I intended it to be, but one of those action steps for me, especially in that space, is to find the compassion that is uncomfortable in a moment where I'm offended and defensive, even if the attack wasn't against me, it was against another student. Finding the compassion for the person who is now extremely defensive because they're receiving the brunt of their previous actions, while also trying to not diminish the impact of the person who was previously attacked. And sometimes for me, that's eye contact, that's holding hands, and that's smiling, as uncomfortable as it is for me, at someone who's also making me uncomfortable by behaviors that I've seen them just display, including folks on the street. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Aurora. Okay, I think that is about
Yes.
it.
Yes, everybody, thank you so much for a beautiful Teisho and everyone for sharing what's on your heart this morning. We do have to say so long to our Sangha online, but everyone that's here, please do join us in our community room. We have kinships, we have lovely refreshments, and wonderful, comfortable chairs. So we'll shift over there and hope you'll join us. Thank you again, Roshi June, for lovely Teisho.
Thank you.
Bye, Adrian.